Welcome, Jacobites, Redcoats, and skeezy slave traders, to this, the 256th episode of Unearthly Podcast. That's right, our episodes now comprise 8-bit color. We are streaming live on the 9th of May, 2018, and tonight we are discussing The Highlanders, written by Elwyn Jones and Gary Davis, and starring Patrick Troughton as the Doctor, Anarchy Wills as Polly, Michael Craze as Ben Jackson, and introducing Fraser Hines as Jamie McCrimmon. I am Randy Ronson McCulloch, your host for the evening, and with me on the panel is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
I am drinking Puma Cola, the official drink of the Puma Man.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Large Marge sent me.
And here, for his last week before he goes off to the wondrous warm land of Spain, Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black.
And almost done with finals.
Good for you.
Erin Romeo Moon Burke was at a birthday party. She just got home. She's tired. She's going to skip the podcast tonight. And basically, we will review of Shame It next week. And, of course, Thomas has decided not to attend tonight because it's a telesnaps, and frankly, I don't blame him. So, on the tonight's show is News and Birthdays. I will talk a little bit about video games and Geek Talk. And then we will go into our 5-minute challenge, episode review, final thoughts, and ratings. But before that, how are you all doing? How's the week been?
I'm moderately sane.
Moderately?
Yeah, like I said, almost done with finals, which means that my brain is always at least halfway burnt out.
So, is next week going to be your first time in a foreign country?
Yes, I got my passport specifically for this trip. I was supposed to go on a trip to another country in high school, but then we invaded some little country called Iraq, and that ended up not happening.
Nervous?
I'm a little nervous about the part where I'm going to be staying in the home of some locals, so I don't know if they're going to know any English, if I'm going to piss them off with some sort of faux pas that I don't realize until it's too late or anything like that. I know I think it was last year they said that somebody the first day said that they weren't hungry and didn't eat the food, so they just didn't make them food again until they complained. Because they take it as personal insult if you don't eat everything that's cooked.
Yeah, that is very much a Southern European thing because the Italians are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the French are that way a bit. Not as much, but they will take it personally. But how's your Spanish, by the way?
In the language placement test, I was able to skip the first semester of Spanish. So the one that I'll be doing on the trip is the second semester. So I don't know if that really gives any indication or not. I do know most of the Spanish that I've learned was from people from South America. So it's definitely going to be different than what'll be spoken there, but hopefully similar enough.
It should be similar enough. There's going to be a few terminology differences, but you got to remember that South America speaks that way because people from this country sailed over and conquered them a few hundred years back.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Mexico speaks Spanish. That's why South America speaks Spanish, and that's why the other half of South America speaks Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
Because Portugal did the same thing.
Yeah.
In fact, if you look back at our history, it's basically a long line of people conquering other people.
Mostly European people conquering other people.
The Mongols got some.
They got the right combination of navy, gunpowder, and imperialism at the right time.
China and Japan have done their fair share.
Yeah.
China pulled back and became isolationist by the time large-scale imperialism really became a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. If you go, yes, by the time Western imperialism became a big thing,
yes.
But you go back to 200, 300 AD, there's a lot of people conquering other people there.
Lots of fighting, lots of nastiness. Anyways.
Yeah. And then Japan, of course, tried it in the 1900s when they took hold of stuff during World War II and some fighting over a few countries in the early 1900s. But it's mostly died down now. The imperialist age is kind of over, except a few countries who will not be named. Anyway, so we'll move on from that. Hope you have a good trip, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have never actually been to a foreign country unless you count Mexico. And by Mexico, I mean Tijuana. So I don't count it. Because the portion of Tijuana I was in was basically just United States light. It was basically a whole bunch of shops of people selling knockoff merchandise like it was a giant swap meet. So.
Yeah, very much gray area there.
Yeah, very gray. The only thing I got was the smell, and I'm not going to talk about that either. Apparently, the river that separates the United States and Mexico was used by the entire city of Tijuana as their toilet.
Oh.
Joy.
Lovely.
Yeah. Anyway, so tonight we have 4 birthdays and I think 5 news articles, so this should get by really quickly. First of all, the 5th of May, we saw the birthday of Richard E. Grant, who played the 10th Doctor in The Curse of Fatal Death, the 9th Doctor in Scream of the Shalka, Simeon in The Snowmen, and the Great Intelligence in Name of the Doctor, and he turned 61. Also, the same day was the posthumous birthday of Delia Derbyshire, the music arranger from 1963 to 1980. Who would have been 81 but died in 2001 at the age of 64, just prior to New Who. I'm pretty sure we would have loved to have her seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder if the reason she left in 1980 was that good old John Nathan Turner candor. Moving ahead to the 7th of May was the posthumous birthday of Valentine Dial, the Black Guardian from the 4th and 5th Doctor eras. Would have been 110, but died in 1985 at 77. Okay, that one's kind of understandable. That would be a posthumous birthday. 110 is a little bit high up there.
Mm-hmm.
9th of May was the birthday of John Arnett, who was Barusa in The Invasion of Time. Would have been 101, but died in 1999 at 82. Also understandable there. And that's all the birthdays we have. We have a little bit of alumni cast and crew news. Tim, if you would like to take it away.
Yes, from Russell T. Davies. In a recent interview to promote his new miniseries, A Very English Scandal, Russell T. Davies mentioned his enthusiasm with working with Hugh Grant. "I have always wanted to work with Hugh Grant. Always," Davies said. "I literally offered him Doctor Who in 2004. I told him that, and he was like, 'Really?' He knew nothing about that." Hugh Grant had played the 12th Doctor previously in the 1998 parody Curse of Fatal Death, following Jim Broadbent's 11th Doctor, and just before Joanna Lumley's 13th Doctor.
Yes, he was the quite handsome Doctor, if they had went by description. He also apparently has expressed some regret at turning down that role.
I bet.
Yeah. Well, you look at it and think about how different Doctor Who would have been if Hugh Grant had been the Doctor in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That wouldn't have been the PTSD Doctor, mind you. I have quite often mentioned that Charles Xavier in X-Men First Class always hit me as being a little bit too Hugh Grant. So imagine that kind of personality on the Doctor.
I still haven't watched any of the First Class line of X-Men movies.
Seriously?
I've only seen First Class.
I watched X-Men 1 and 2, and since the X-Men movies weren't really canon with the rest, and there were so many other superhero movies, most of my money went toward MCU.
First Class and Days of Future Past are worth a watch.
Yep.
Apocalypse, actually, I would still watch it, but it's not as good as Future Past. Anyway.
Right. A couple weeks. Oh, you're.
We have I was going to say we have auction news. So
yeah. A couple weeks ago, and by we, I'm pretty sure I mean not me, because I don't think I was probably here because I don't recognize
I think
this.
that was the week you were off.
I told you about a script for An Unearthly Child that was going on auction. That auction has ended, and the script was sold for £6,200. With fees, that's £7,500 for the script. Congrats to the owner for purchasing a piece of Doctor Who history.
Yeah, to fill you in, Bill, basically a guy bought William Hartnell's old house.
Yeah.
And was renovating it and found in the attic a original manuscript for An Unearthly Child, complete with Hartnell's notes in it. Like with blue pencil, they had
I
made
see. Okay.
he had made notations.
Are the proceeds going toward anything, or?
No, I think that one was just he found it. He found it. He had it appraised on that. It wasn't a charity auction, as far as I'm aware.
It was just
It
a
was-
miraculous find, and
okay.
he's selling it, and it's probably going to go to renovate Hartnell's old
Yeah,
house.
Yeah.
Fair. I just figured if it wasn't towards some kind of charity, it would have gone to the Hartnell estate or something. But
Nah, they sold the house and all their contents to this guy. So
all right, one script is sold, another goes up. My script doesn't say, it does say it later on, but okay, yeah. So this one is a lot more recent though. The Doctor Who Appreciation Society, or DWAS, is holding an eBay auction for charity with a signed script from the last series of Doctor Who. An original copy of Mike Bartlett's script, Knock Knock, signed by Peter Capaldi, David Suchet, Pearl Mackie, and Mike himself, is one of the items being sold to raise money for Denville Hall, an actors' charity supported by Lala Ward, as well as the Muswell Hill Syrian Refugees Relief Project supported by Peter and Elaine Capaldi. Other items include Big Finish scripts signed by cast members including Alex Kingston and David Bradley. Full details of the auction can be found at the website ebay.co.uk/USR/DWAS_auction.
So there you go. That one's not quite as a piece of Doctor Who history as the previous one, but hey. All right, so that takes us to our Big Finish news. Again, this week, there is absolutely no production news. None. People are getting a little weirded out by this. I mean, it is normal for a showrunner to try to keep things close to the chest, but the fact that they haven't been cited at a on-location filming, maybe they're doing a whole bunch of space stuff, so it's all in studio, but there's been no studio leaks either. So
unless he's being very tight and close-chested about the studio stuff, which, as far as we can tell, he must have been, because there's been nothing.
Yeah, there's not been a peep. For like a month, there's been no peep, so that's just frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the Big Finish news. We've got nothing new out, but there are some very significant upcoming releases that were announced this week.
Two big pieces.
The first piece, coming in August, Ripper Song will face not only just one incarnation of the Master, but 4 in the Diary of River Song Series 5. Jeffrey Beavers, Derek Jacobi, Michelle Gomez, and Eric Roberts will face off against River in 4 adventures. Mind you, this will be Eric Roberts' first appearance with Big Finish. The episodes are The Bechdel Test by Jonathan Morris, Animal Instinct by Roy Gill, The Lifeboat and the Death Boat by Eddie Robson, and Concealed Weapon by Scott Hancock. The Diary of River Song Series 5 is available for pre-order from the Big Finish website for £23 CD, £20 download, or as part of a bundle with the Diary of River Song Series 4 for £45 CD, £40 download. Both are due out around August, I believe.
I'm not much for buying River Song box sets, but this one I might make an exception.
Just for all the Masters?
Just for all the Masters, yeah.
Right.
Might be enough.
And the next one is definitely on our buy list.
Oh, yeah.
We wanted it, we demanded it, and Big Finish listened.
Apparently.
Coming in July to the main range, David Banks and the 80s Cybermen return to face off against the Sixth Doctor and the new unit team in Hour of the Cybermen by Andrew Smith. I should mention by the new unit team, I mean the One Big Finish just brought up, not the modern unit team. Not only David Banks, by the way, but Mark Hardy reprises his role as the Cyber Lieutenant.
Ooh.
I have listened to this trailer. I love this
half
trailer.
A dozen times at this point.
Oh yeah. I'll be sitting here working on something. It's like, oh God, I gotta listen to that trailer again.
Do you mind if I poke in the middle and listen for a second or two?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna finish this up, but
yeah, go fish and then maybe poke.
Okay. So, Hour of the Cybermen is available for pre-order from the Big Finish website for £14, 99 CD, $12.99 on download. We will be reviewing this. Maybe not on release, maybe not until our next season, but soon, or Matt will kill us.
I will skin you all alive.
Oh, we'll just be sitting here. It's like, yeah, we're not doing it. I'm sorry.
But I need my skin to be alive.
Suddenly I disappear.
Suddenly we hear behind us. Yeah.
And a hatchet comes flying at you. Anyways, quick listen to the clip here. I'm going to actually listen to like the last couple seconds here.
Actually, just play the first few seconds.
You will.
First few seconds, you say?
There's a large wow noise, but David Banks.
Play the audio segment.
Ooh.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Welcome to the unit operations room, Doctor. Our base for monitoring the Cerberus satellites.
That was earlier today. You've got Unit HQ bugged.
Interesting.
I'm sure Matt will love. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
David Banks, by the way, doesn't sound a day older.
No, he sounds exactly where he left off in the 80s.
Mark Hardy sounds a bit older, but I swear David Banks hasn't missed a drop.
Mm-hmm.
Bill and I were talking about this prior to the podcast, and we're just sitting here going, you know, I bet the director listened to this in the mixing room and went, why didn't we do this sooner?
I also said to Randy, I'm pretty sure that Nick Briggs probably already had the right setting on, on the what you call it, that he probably just used when he was alone and thought no one was listening.
And the fact that they probably they probably had to drag Nick Briggs out of the sound room, kicking and screaming.
I want to listen. I want to listen.
Not I want to listen. I want to listen. Going, but I'm the voice of the Cybermen. I'm the voice.
Not anymore, Nicholas Briggs.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, the '80s Cybermen are cheesy, from an era that was cheesy.
Cheese.
But they were amazing cheese. They were threatening cheese.
Yep. And I was actually thinking this. I'm going to tangent for a moment here because we've got time. Just a smidge. And mention the fact that if you look at the Doctors, each one is definitely the product of their eras.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking this today as I was putzing around the house. First of all, you've got Hartnell, right? He plays the Doctor relatively straight. In an era where the drama serial was the big thing. I mean, you look at, previous stuff. What is it? What's that other big British sci-fi?
Avengers?
Not Avengers.
Downton Abbey?
Not Downton Abbey.
Sci-fi, guys.
Sci-fi.
I thought Avengers was sci-fi.
That's a
I'm
joke.
sorry if it's not.
It's more of an action spy thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I thought all spy thrillers were sci-fi. I don't know.
No.
I don't watch them.
Not really.
No.
Yeah.
Like 7?
No, that'll be much later.
Early black and white.
What was it, Professor something or?
Quatermass.
Quatermass. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think that. Oh, yeah, that was the series of movies, right?
That was a series of movies, and also did occasionally little specials or something.
But that really set the tone for science fiction at the time, and even in the U.S., we were of the dramatic sort. If you look at stuff like The Adventures of Superman, which was light comedy but mostly straight, and that's kind of how Hartnell played it. Well, then you get to Troughton era, and you get camp. I mean, this is the same era that Batman was going on. At the same time, Star Trek was going on, but Even Star Trek had its comedic moments. And Troughton plays the Doctor for comedy. Not all the time, with a serious undertone, but he's very lighthearted about it.
Mm-hmm.
He plays it as kind of the buffoon genius, the idiot savant. And it worked for that era. Then you get to the 70s and you get to Jon Pertwee. And what was the big thing that was in the 70s that started in the 60s but was growing big in the 70s was the action show. And Pertwee played the Doctor pretty much as an action hero.
He was pretty much his own version of Bond, yes.
He was his own version of Bond, or basically a Bond meets Dirty Harry meets, he was basically the action star. And then you have Tom Baker, who played as a blend of the three.
Action when he needed, comedy when he needed, straightforward when he needed.
Which is why many people consider him the perfect Doctor. Then you get to the 80s, the early 80s, the pastel era, and you get the softer, gentler Fifth Doctor. Then you get the loud, blaring, multicolored, me generation Sixth Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the Seventh Doctor, and you get, first of all, this is the period that Next Generation was now the dominant force for sci-fi. It had just started out. It was still finding itself, but it was back to, the quality of the drama. So they started the Doctor out as a kind of more of a comedy 80s camp, over-the-top character, but quickly devolved him into the mastermind to fit the era.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the 90s, and really, I'm going to exclude the 90s, even though we do have Paul McGann there, because we only really saw him for one movie, and it really didn't give him a chance to establish what he was.
And it was American.
I'm not even counting that part. Big Finish did kind of realize Paul McGann as more of a sarcastic, snarky Doctor, which is definitely a 90s product.
Definitely another 90s trope, yes.
So then you get to 2005. What's the big dominant sci-fi going on around 2005? Anyone remember?
End of the Star Wars prequels.
That's movies.
Star Trek had just ended, I think, again.
Yes, but what was big at the time?
It was big.
Firefly?
Firefly had its big moment and then went.
The big thing that was out at the time was Battlestar Galactica, the new series.
I was never really a fan of the new series.
I would not have gotten that.
Heavy drama, dark, depressing. So what do we get? A Doctor with PTSD.
I suppose.
But then that ended, and we switched to David Tennant, who was more of the lighter, more heroic, more of a Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man Doctor, if you think about it.
That was also, I believe, around that time, the female gaze was a big thing with Twilight and such, so we bring in the sexy Doctor.
Mm-hmm. A trend that continued to an extent with the 11th Doctor.
Mm-hmm. They made him younger, which helped.
They made him younger, they made him sexier, they made the females sexier. Because if it was one thing that Amy Pond she was pretty hot. Come on, we'll admit it.
Mm.
Considering there was a DVD extra where she hit on herself, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of those little webisodes. Anyway, so then you get that, and you start getting the backlash to that, the more thing. So yes, it's time to make an older Doctor again. So they go with Capaldi, a man who is the same age as the original First Doctor, but who plays it, first of all, with an identity crisis, and then kind of as a pseudo rock star Doctor. If you look at him in Series 9, he's basically playing on his final tour. So yeah, each Doctor very much reflects the era they were in.
And it's probably no coincidence that the first Star Trek show with a female lead and the first female Doctor were announced, within a year or two of each other.
Here's my issue with that, and I'm talking this purely on the Star Trek thing, is I've never considered Star Trek to have a main lead.
Yeah.
It's always been an ensemble cast. Yes, you could argue that Kirk
ensemble, but I'd say it's always been led by
not always. And
no.
Although I haven't watched DS9 or Voyager, so that might be an influence on that statement.
I mean, you've got Kirk, but you really got the triumvirate of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
For the original series, and it's even less so when you get to the Next Generation, which is truly an ensemble cast. Yes, Picard's the captain, but he is not the protagonist.
Because... Each main character at some point or another becomes a major protagonist.
Yes. And the same holds true for Deep Space Nine. Sisko leads, but he's not always the main character. The main character is the focus of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll change from episode to episode to episode. One time you're dealing with Sisko and this whole thing about being the emissary of the prophets. The next week it's O'Brien. And, problems at home, dealing with this, or something from his old past during the war with Cardassia coming back to haunt him. And then you get a Dax-centric episode with something going on with the Trills, or somebody tries to kidnap her, or her slug. Or Kira, and it's somebody from the old Bajor Resistance stuff. Each week is a new plot. Heck, there were so many Odo and Quark episodes. That was The Odd Couple, and that was DS9 at some of its greatest. But it's very much an ensemble cast. So you compare this to Discovery, which is basically she's the main character, everybody else is ancillary. Bothers me.
Also, she's also, if you're going to go by captains, then she's also not supposed to be the main character. But also, we've already had a previous female lead character then.
Yeah,
her name's Janeway.
Yeah.
You can't, oh yeah, I forgot, I for some reason wasn't thinking about Janeway.
Janeway.
No, it's just
I think I caused this to go too deep down Star Trek.
Yes.
You went.
You opened up the wormhole.
You dragged us down a well. You dragged us down a gravity well. We're getting out of that now. We're moving on, but we are still going to be off topic for a moment because we are in our Geek Talk section. So that's okay.
That's all right.
But Matt and I are going to talk about video games for a moment because we both were at day one for the official launch of Funcom's Conan Exiles. A game which Matt and I both thoroughly enjoy, by the way.
We play too damn much of this. I swear to God we do.
We can't help ourselves.
Apparently.
So the launch is a mixed bag.
Expected it.
Yeah, expected it. I mean, I always expect a buggy launch for a video game. It's going to happen these days, especially a game that you can patch freely as you go along, which is about every game these days.
And I think our past history of Funcom has led us to believe that they're going to do at least one or two things face-palm worthy before they start to really correct things.
Oh yeah, Funcom historically has never had a smooth game launch. I think Secret World was as close as they came,
and that still was.
But so for this, they rolled out 250 odd servers for everybody on the planet. All fresh, ready to go for launch. They were filled within 5 minutes.
And all of the servers you could buy for yourself to be a private server have all been bought.
Yep, including one by us. Which we are very pleased for, because that means we're not sitting here on the Play Online with a 40 of 40 all servers. They also had Rapid Fire made a change because people were demanding more PvP. They converted all of their one style of PvE, which was Conflict server, which was PvE with limited PvP. They just took them offline and converted them to PvP servers and put them back off and pissed off everybody on those servers.
I don't get people who demand more PvP in games because I feel like the one thing I would not want to add to games is more anxiety.
Well, yeah, right?
Although I guess it's just another form of random encounter, except the random encounter probably has more time to play than.
Oh, there's been time playing PvE on Conan Exiles, I really wish I was on a PvP server because I see somebody's base built somewhere stupid and
Just
really
want to build a
wanted,
capital and knock it over.
yeah. So I get why it's popular, but at the same time, they pissed off a good chunk of the people that were on these servers. There are bugs, but nowhere near as many as I would have thought, at least from playing single player. Some of the bugs that we already knew are still there, which does annoy me because those were supposed to get addressed in the latest patch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, that part of it's better than it's mostly just the server end. The server waiting times and the demand, I think, far exceeded what Funcom expected.
As usual.
I mean, so apparently there are 50-some US servers for PvP. All of them are at 40 of 40 right now. So that's like 1,700 and some people currently playing Conan Exiles as we speak.
And trying to chop each other's heads off.
Yes, but that's just the US. That's just North America. South America has their own server sets. Europe has their own server sets. Asia has their own server sets. Oceania has their own server sets. All of them are full. All of them are screaming to add more servers. And this is just, an ongoing issue. They had an exclusive contract with G-Portal, and G-Portal can't keep up. It's an amazing demand for more servers all over the place.
Apparently people really just want to kill one another.
Mind you, the as of the time we're speaking right now, the anger over the changing the PvE conflict servers to PvP has garnered 250 replies in the forums. It's the largest topic I've seen on their forums, so yeah. 2.3K people viewing. Jeez. So yeah, there's issues there. It is still a good game, and if you want to buy it and play single player, trust me, I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
Or if you have a way to make a dedicated server for yourself and your friends, that would work as well.
At the very least, play some single player, get yourselves warmed up and ready.
Yeah, most of this is going to die off in probably a month to 2 months.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be a big slew of people that are going to be really super hardcore PvP, and then they'll get to the end game and just go, meh, and fall out.
And that, mind you, is what happens to every game.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do this until the next big game launches.
Yeah.
And then they'll move on to the next big game, because that's the way some of these PvPers work. But I highly recommend the game. I love it. I'm less thrilled with the console versions because, of course, Microsoft and Sony Interactive Entertainment are wussies. It has censorship over the PC version. And this is Conan, so this is Howard's Conan, so I don't believe in censorship there.
Yeah, if you're gonna go Conan, go the full Conan.
Yeah. I was going to say you don't go full Conan, but no, I'm not going to make that reference.
The consoles don't go full Conan.
Yeah, the consoles have decided not to go full Conan, and they've done partial nudity censors, which again is the weird part of America where mindless, gory body parts flying all over the place violence is absolutely fine, but
But if you show one bare chest, we swear to God.
Actually, bare chests, at least on the PS4, aren't the issue. I think Microsoft has full censorship and PS4 has partial.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you can't show anything downstairs because that would be immoral.
And also, the PlayStation 4 version apparently hasn't been test played at all.
Correct. The PS4, okay, so PC has been in early access since January 31st of 2017. So it has been 15 months on the development block there. The Xbox version has been out since August. There has been no public test of the PS4 prior to launch. Except I think they may people that ordered it online may have gotten it 3 days early. That's still not enough time for them to do anything with it.
Mm-hmm. Especially when they're rushing everything out the door.
Yeah. But yeah, prior to that, the PS4 people haven't seen anything. There are massive bugs in the PS4 version. People that are supposed to be getting that have bought physical copies of the PS4 game are getting the wrong bonus item. I'm really hoping Funcom fixes this by going, okay, so you got your armor, here's your sword, and yeah, swords for everybody, because...
Yeah, just fuck it. You all got armor by accident? Fine, turn on swords for everyone.
Yep.
No more bickering. That would immediately quell like a whole bunch of people all at once.
Yeah, I'd like cut some of their forum talk in half. But I still thoroughly enjoy this game, especially if you're ever a fan of Howard's Conan or Schwarzenegger's Conan. Because
it incorporates a little bit of everything.
The bonus items we're talking about are replicas from the Conan the Barbarian movie.
The sword in particular, yes.
No, the sword and the armor are.
Is the armor? I don't
yes,
think
it is.
so.
I've made the armor.
Oh wait, no, the armor's that's like King Conan's armor.
Yep. You see it at the
end of the movies, yeah.
So yeah. It is a very interesting game, especially if you like the survival genre game. Mind you, the original survival genre game was Minecraft. And since then, they have gotten more advanced, bigger games like Ark and Rust. And as far as gameplay, this kind of blows Ark and Rust away.
Mm-hmm. Although there are still some limitations, but hopefully over time they'll fix that.
Yeah, the new combat system, which is unbelievably, it feels natural. I enjoy that. I especially love I especially love exploring the zones, reading all the flavor text and all this other little bits and pieces of stuff, which is just absolutely immersing yourself in the world, which is why I'm not fond of the censorship, because it breaks immersion for me. It's just, for me, it's an unbelievably cool game to play and now administer, as I am the administrator of our private server. I love it to death. It's definitely worth a play if you're into that kind of game. And then by that, I mean the survival genre. Or if you're just into, sword and shield, low fantasy, definitely cool to play. Anything you want to add, Matt?
I kind of knew for a while now that we're going to have bugs. It's not as bad as it could be, but it could have been a lot worse. I do like the decision that we made to get the private server. Although you did wait the last minute to do that. Thank goodness it wasn't any later.
I had to wait till I had money.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to wait till after May 1st. The server has a 30-day contract. I did not want that contract to come due again while I was still in May.
That's true, yeah, because you need to make sure you got the money too.
So I waited till May 3rd, 4th, and 5th, spent the weekend tweaking it, and other than a couple of minor burps, it works fine. For whatever reason, Sarah and myself spent half the day yesterday not having a day-night cycle.
Yeah.
We still don't know what caused that, but logging out and logging back in fixed it.
Finally. Yeah, I'm still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with that sword, because now things have gotten even more chaotic about the sword.
Yeah, I'm hoping they come to a solution. The original one. The original problem is due to the whole ESRB fiasco with it, and the fact that almost nobody buys physical copies of PC games in the United States anymore. Funcom decided not to release Conan Exiles, a physical copy, in the United States of America.
For PC.
For PC. You can still purchase it physically for PlayStation 4 and Xbox.
And I believe there's even physical versions on PC in foreign countries.
Oh yes, there's some all over the world. People will still be able to buy PC versions. The thing is, they also decided at the same time as their marketing promotion for this is to make anybody who purchased the game digitally get the Conan Royal Armor as their bonus, and anybody who purchased a physical copy get the sword. Which means if you're a U.S. player, there is no way of getting the sword for yourself on PC unless you order it from a foreign country, which costs a small fortune.
And if you hadn't already bought the game like beforehand, you're already out of the armor.
Yeah.
Not that it's a particularly good armor, it's just a fancy armor.
Yeah, the same holds true for the sword, so it still looks kind of cool.
Still want to hang that damn thing on my wall.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's there for. Anyway, we both recommend Conan Exiles, and I'm sure Aaron would too. We did a live stream yesterday for 9 hours.
8. Very close to 9. It was like I think my end time is like 8.5. Let me double check. Because I think we were just short of 9.
Yeah,
220, 620, 8 hours and 40 minutes.
Damn close to 9 hours. Yeah, and we did this. We didn't even note. I mean, we blinked and 4 hours had gone by.
Making characters, finding places to set up bases, deciding to go for runs for resources.
Building another base on the resources, excuse me. It was just, we had a grand old time, and it was basically like, where did the time fly? And that's why we enjoy this game, is because when you're having fun, time flies. And that's definitely the case with this. I have restarted this game like, 6 times now?
Probably that much or more by this point for me.
And I'm still enjoying every moment of it, so yeah.
I just got into heavy armor again.
I highly recommend the game. Especially if you're not going to be playing on public servers at the moment because they're all lodged.
Yeah, but if you want single play, this is a perfect game right now. And wait a couple months, and I bet you'll find plenty of servers to join in on.
Yep. So that's all we really have to say about Conan Exiles. We don't want to beat this horse. We have our own streams for that. And we're getting close to beating it now, so we'll move on. All right, so summary. Who wants to do the summary?
The other two have gone extremely quiet.
Crickets, crickets, crickets.
Bill, Tim.
I'm not good at summaries on the best days. That goes double for Telesnap weeks.
Yeah, I could barely follow this episode.
So I guess it does leave it up to me, doesn't it?
I had to go on to TARDIS and read the summary there to keep up with what was happening, because otherwise, it just sounded like someone was playing the spoons, but we'll get into that stuff later.
Yeah, okay. I'm pretty sure that we're all going to be in the same boat here.
Wow, did everyone get lost? I was playing Conan and I kept up with it fine.
I had my
How are
issues.
you playing Conan when you had to read action like every 5 seconds?
I just listened to the sound effects. The video was actually louder than the game in most spots.
I tried to do that, and I had issues, but I have issues with telesnaps on the best
You always,
days.
yeah, it seems like almost everyone here does, except for me. I seem to be the best with them.
Mind you, my
Oddly.
habit, by the way, is to work on stuff for the podcast while I watch or listen to Doctor Who. And it's really hard for me to read and write and read telesnaps. So I think that's part of my issue.
Yeah, I'm never going to suggest telesnaps during the semester again, because I usually work on homework while I'm watching Doctor Who, and I couldn't do that most of this month.
Well, now you know. All right, Matt, take it away.
Knowing's half the battle.
The other half is red and blue lasers.
Alrighty, so I'm going to hit the start button here, and I'm going to begin in 3, 2, 1. Alright, so we kick off the story with the ongoing battle between, I believe it was mostly the British and the Scots. There are a few Scots on the other side too, from what I hear from real history. I forget what battle this was, but essentially it's one of the bigger confrontations as I recall.
Yeah, it's actually a very historic battle.
I just can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Yeah. I'll look it up while you go on.
But as this is going on and slowly fading off into the distance, the TARDIS arrives with its companions, and as the main two
battle,
are
it's the Battle of Culloden.
Culloden, okay.
Yeah.
And as
Keeloden, excuse me.
Keeloden.
Yeah.
God, now I can't even remember names now.
What were you...
I'm just looking it up really quick so I can just remember it for the rest of this. So as Ben and Polly are headed outside and looking around, apparently they are nearly hit by a cannonball. They're not sure what to make of it, but the doctor figures it out very quickly and decides, nope, I don't want this. The others still convince him to continue looking anyways, and they manage to get caught by the Scots. They're brought into a shack, and upon mentioning the fact that the doctor is the doctor, they require him to help one of their wounded. He does figure out very quickly that it doesn't require much to help the man, just that he needs to be treated properly and given enough time to rest here and there. Asking for some clean water, Polly and one of the other Scotswomen go out to get some fresh water for the tending of the wounds, only for the British to find out where they are. They are surrounded and then forcibly dragged out. Polly is in hot pursuit for a while as they nearly get hung, but then get tagged along by some other guy who has better plans for the captured Scots and traitors, as they're referring to some of them. During this time, the doctor is feigning to be a German doctor and has been trying to hint at a few things here and there with the redcoats and trying to worm his way through them.
Dr. von Ver.
And mind you, affectioning the worst German accent I've ever heard.
It was very comical, yes. I've heard worse.
On Saturday Night Live, maybe.
No, I've actually heard of worse bad German accent on a Godzilla movie. So as this continues along, Polly does notice that her fellow Scotswoman has got something weird going on where she keeps being overprotective about a ring. But they eventually get their hands on, I believe it was a colonel or a captain or something like that. A ranking officer of some kind, and they pull him into a pit, tie him up, humiliate him, and then leave with him stuck in the pit. And they go about with his money to try and find some way to find the doctor and the others.
I think that was the solicitor.
It was, by the way, Lieutenant Finch.
Lieutenant.
Oh, sorry, I'm mixing up people then. My mistake.
It was the lieutenant. So they finally figure out where...
Actually, this is England. That was a lieutenant.
Lieutenant. They finally eventually make their way to finding the others, after being passed from one redcoat to the other, and by miraculous miracle, the doctor shows up, having escaped the redcoats himself through a series of his own tricks and traps. Having set one of them up for trying to find the ring of the escaped prince of the Highlanders, and then bamboozling them into his own shtick way of getting out of things. He's been posing both as a old maiden as well as a guard, and continues to also fake being a doctor, which, by the way, that German name he gave is German for Doctor Who.
Yep.
So as he's gallivanting about, they finally figure out where the others have gone, which is to a slave ship. The Scots have sold themselves away as slaves to try and get away from the hangman's noose. Not that the place that they're going to is going to be much better, as it's probably going to be a slow and painful death if they get there. The main three that have already escaped and are on the outside try to make a plot to get them weapons and send them to the ship, while the doctor gets the attention of the main guard and higher ups on the ship. Ben also escapes in the meantime and helps them out with their plan to try and get the weapons into the hold. The Doctor convinces them to go slowly and carefully go down to a hold where the Scots finally break free and then take over the ship. As the main crew finally makes it to shore, only to find that out of the Scots that they had met, the only one left on the mainland now is Jamie, and he leads them back to the direction they were trying to get back to, but is also very curious as to what they're up to and why they need to go back here so eagerly. And also the others believing that Jamie's kind of stuck where he is, want to make sure that he stays safe, and convince the Doctor to allow him to come into the TARDIS if he so desires. And so with that, they finally lead the Jamie off into the TARDIS, which is a reshot because they did shoot this originally the first time they were out on location. And Jamie very cautiously apparently is brought into the TARDIS and leaves with the rest of the crew.
All right. I'm not even going to try to figure out what time that was done in because it doesn't really matter.
Oh, actually, if I go back to my tabs, it's a little bit less than this, so about 6 minutes. Which, considering how confused everyone was about this plot, I did a good job.
Yeah.
All right. So, looking at our list, now we have to deal with what we liked about this episode. And Bill, you have to go first.
I'm glad I thought of that. So I kind of like the idea of the Doctor going around and being I don't know if master of disguise. I feel like that's too strong of a statement.
It was
But
like it's like pastiching his favorite Monty Python moments before Monty Python existing.
Yeah. I think he has like 3 disguises in this episode, and I just kind of enjoyed that, even though you can't really see his body language part of it.
Yeah, that is part of the difficulty of this one.
Yeah, the problem with the missing visuals is a bit of a hindrance, but I really did get the idea that he did throw people for a loop, even if essentially he was doing his, as we mentioned before, he did kind of idiot savants his way through things, and this is very much him idiot savanting his way through costuming and pretending to be characters.
All right.
Whatever allows him to get through easiest at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Matt, how about you?
Favorite thing about this one? I'm gonna go with I not only did I like the Doctor, but I also really liked Ben and Polly and what little we got to see of Jamie in this one. I think they all did really good jobs, and it's obvious that they had hopes that maybe Jamie would be brought on, but they weren't certain yet.
Oh, that was a completely out of the blue decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, apparently I found out in the extras that they were planning to bring him on if Fraser Hines said yes. And they did not know until they were almost done shooting that he was okay with coming back on to Doctor Who for a couple more episodes.
Which probably explains why, if I remember right, doesn't he spend half of the next story unconscious?
Yeah,
I'm not sure about the next story, but I do know that majority of the end of this, he's actually kind of out and away.
But I think his role in the Moonbase is pretty small, and if they didn't know when it was being written that he was going to be in it,
Moonbase is not the next episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not it, is it?
No, the Underwater Menace is what follows.
Okay.
The Moonbase is the serial after that.
Gotcha. Even still, they probably were writing the Moonbase around the time this came. The Underwater Menace was probably written already.
Mm-hmm. Which
means they had to go under rights very quickly. I assume that Underwater Menace must have been easier for them to convert. I would hope.
I don't know.
I've never watched that one.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either.
Its name is also similar enough to Fury from the Deep that I forget that there are 2 such stories.
Nope, I might have issues because it's telesnaps. If we weren't doing this podcast, I would not be watching these episodes because of my hatred for telesnaps.
Curse you, telesnaps.
Right. We're not to the negatives yet.
But as far as I could hear out of all the characters, they were actually they were generally enjoyable to listen to, and they seem to be doing some really interesting stuff. And I did get to feel like there's more than just the basics, flat stereotypes every once in a while.
Right.
Holly in particular got some interesting points where she got to try and keep pushing the one gal. I can't remember her name. I just remember it's the Scottish woman
It was like
she was
Kayla
with.
or something.
Yeah, she could whatever her name was. She kept pushing her to keep trying and to try and keep up with ideas, and she's the sole reason they finally bump into the Doctor eventually. And the Doctor, although haphazardly and jokingly, starts to slowly guide them through trying to get an idea done. Ben doesn't get to really do much other than to try and be a British tough guy for portions and bits.
I think he gets the attention of British soldiers to heighten the tension.
Yeah, pretty much just to piss them off, and then they decide to threaten to kill him, which is always fun.
Yep.
And then the Doctor's off being really fun and sneaky and trying to apparently secretively come up with a plan.
Yeah, he seemed. I'll hold off on that. Okay.
We'll see. Anyways, yeah. Next.
Tim, you are next.
Okay, what I liked about this episode. I really liked just the historical era it was set in. This was like
the Jacobite Rebellion.
Yeah, just because like I know absolutely nothing about the Jacobite Rebellion. I didn't even know that. Is that what it was called?
Yes.
This particular
Yes.
fight is what it was called. Yes.
Yes. The Jacobite Rebellion, or the Rebellion of 45, is basically the Scots rebelling against the House of Hanover, which was German, and trying to get Prince Charlie on the throne. The reason he was not in succession was because Charlie was Catholic. So once again, it is religion being part of the issue.
Funny how that pops up every now and again.
Charles was descended to the House of Stuart, which was the previous rulers of Britain. And basically, this is the Jacobite Rebellion, or the 1745 Rising, is the Scots trying to put the House of Stuart back on the throne, regardless of whether they were Catholic or not. Just he's still their king, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The House of Stuart came from the line of Scottish kings. So for them, Charlie was the king, George was not, and they were going to fight tooth and claw to get their king on his throne. And of course, it never happened. The Jacobite Rebellion was very thoroughly squashed. And a lot of Scotsmen were put to the sword. Rather brutally, and some were wound up in as slaves bound for the colonies, including America. So, you know, some of our forefathers might have actually been ex-Jacobite Scotsmen, where they then proceeded to rise up against England and America.
Funny how that bites you.
Mm. Yeah, but I just think this was like for me, it was a fascinating introduction to this period. Like, and that might have been more the circumstances of like me like finding out about through Doctor Who, but
yeah, well, a big part of that is that this was a civil war in England, and therefore not normally covered in U.S. history.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a big enough thing to be covered in a U.S. taught world history class. So you don't get to hear about it. I mean, the French Revolution, yes, you get to hear about the French Revolution because that affected everything. However, if the French rebels had been, you know, squashed, it wouldn't be in our history books. It wouldn't be important. It wouldn't be a thing. It just happened. And that, I mean, when we're hearing about what's going on at the same time as the Jacobite Rebellion, what we're hearing about is the Indian Wars. that were going on here in America. And England was contributing to the Indian Wars while putting down the Scots at the same time, which goes to show you how big and powerful the British Empire was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That they could fight wars on multiple fronts and, not even blink about it.
And one of them was right on their front door.
And I believe the French were part of that war too, against England.
Yeah,
Not
they
the Jacobite War, the because it's
French-
called the French and Indian War in the States, unless it's a different war. Which it
no,
might
that's the same war.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, because remember the fact that France big border was Quebec. And they had befriended, they had a lot more friendlier approach to dealing with the Indian tribes. So when some of the land that the Quebecans were in, or the Acadians, more to the point, was disputed between France and England, they went to war and they brought their Indian allies in, and who were pleased to do so since England treated them like shit. And that's why it became the French and Indian War. Wow, I am just Mr. History tonight, aren't I?
Yes. And I thank you for that.
Yeah, there's just a whole lot of shit going on all at once.
Yeah, the 18th century is a very interesting time. Because that's the point where technology was also starting to advance. So warfare began to advance quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Guns had been a thing.
The earlier part of the Industrial Revolution, I think, was around that time.
Correct. And that was changing things. Guns had been an issue since the 16th century, but were not able to be mass produced.
Not on the grand scale like they were just about to at this point.
Where they were getting to at this point, thanks to the Industrial Revolution. We still didn't have the assembly line, which wouldn't be invented until the following century, but the idea of mass production became a thing.
Mm-hmm. You could at least get the parts you needed really quickly.
Correct. So yeah, it's an interesting point in history. It's part of the time where warfare began to change. And pretty soon, the old it wouldn't happen quite yet as of this point, but the British thing of forming up in battle lines and marching, and basically, each side lining up in the war was going to be a thing that would be blown out of history books thanks to the American Revolution.
Guerrilla tactics, yay!
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was that's more Mr. History for you.
Yay.
Okay. So I think that was Tim's. I am going to pass because anything I would have mentioned has been mentioned. Well, other than it's nice to see Fraser Hines.
Mm-hmm.
He does have an enthusiasm for any role he plays.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, the quick history thing I saw, Fraser Hines was actually a child actor like 10 years before this.
Well, I won't say anything bad about child actors because some of them grow up to be great people. So not always actors, but great people in the movie business. I mean, look at Ron Howard.
Mm-hmm. Look at Ron Howard. Have you seen what the kid that played Chunk from Goonies is doing these days?
No, I haven't.
He's part of licensing for movies.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of the kids, a handful of those kids are still actors these days, even on television.
Kurt Russell was a child actor.
Yeah.
And I like Kurt Russell. I mean, I like him as an actor today. Robert Downey Jr. was a child actor.
Mm-hmm.
God knows I love Iron Man, so hey. Yeah.
Elijah Wood.
So yeah. And God knows half of the Hogwarts cast are going on to do good things.
Mm-hmm. They've had some rough starts, but they seem to be doing okay for themselves for the most part.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's, good stuff going on with child actors. So I won't say anything bad about a child actor. And, Fraser Hines always brought an enthusiasm to things.
Mm-hmm. Just mean he had some practice before this.
So, all right, that's likes. Let's move on to dislikes. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be one giant elephant in the room.
Yep.
And we'll get the ball rolling with you, Bill.
There were a lot of scenes where there'd be a picture of someone's face and someone playing the spoons and grunting in the background.
Okay, so whose least favorite thing about this is not going to be the telesnaps?
The missing video really does take a lot out of it.
I usually try not to mention that, but this seems to be a very
combat-heavy one.
episode.
Yes.
None of that survives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right. So that was a crickets, right? That's pretty much everybody's issue with this.
Yeah, like the telesnaps weren't an issue before, but it seems like all the telesnaps were like just washed out, so I couldn't make anything out.
It's not even that. It's the fact that they really didn't have any good telesnaps, and this is a very combat-heavy episode or story, if you will, and there's just nothing to help convey that. And it's just, there's just nothing to give us to help supplement what's supposed to be going on screen. There's a lot of quiet moments or fighting moments or stuff of the like that there needs to be a physical representation.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
There's one very brief clip that was probably from Blue Peter or something where there's actual like motion happening, but other than that, the combat scenes, they didn't really get any good visuals in the telesnap version.
Snaps is going to be a problem if they ever want to make an animated reconstruction of this.
They'd pretty much have to do all the battle scenes from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Which, like I said, that's going to make
Unless
it
they bring
difficult.
Fraser Hines in to reenact everything.
The way they usually make the telesnaps is they do, they basically use when they make the animated, is they use the telesnaps kind of as keyframes.
Yeah, or they rotoscope sometimes, depending on who's animating.
Mm-hmm. And there's not enough left to do that in this.
They'll mildly rotoscope. They'll also look at the script and figure out what the script had to say. Wasn't I don't think we actually got to see the animated version of that yet. But there's I believe no, or did we? I think we might have seen that. There was an animated Ice Warriors episode. Like there's one story that had a missing episode or something, and it was animated.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, we did see it. And I believe they mentioned in the special features that they actually had to recreate a complete fight scene and had to guess how they were going to go about it. Because the original script said, and he swings it like a mace over his head and the Ice Warrior uses this thing to hit somebody. And they're like, there's no way they would have been able to do that with the costume as it was on set. So how did they actually go about this?
Yep.
And they had to figure out stuff like that on their own from scratch. So it won't be their first time. So they're at least getting some experience before going into something like this if they do finally animate it. But yeah, this is a huge missing piece.
For the massacre.
I get the feeling that sci-fi might be easier to animate just because the different types of settings and the different expectations of realism.
Maybe. At the same time, though, doing a historical where you know what things look like would give you a lot.
Wow.
Going once, going twice. Bueller.
I didn't like the fact, just quickly, that it didn't really establish like what were the Doctor Ben and Polly doing there, like, or what was the reason for coming to them?
The whole running thing about the
Roll
second
one
Doctor
D20.
era is, he could not steer the TARDIS worth a damn. So they were frequently lost. So when they landed, they didn't know where they were. They were looking around, nearly got hit with a cannonball. The doctor's like, okay, we're done. But they wanted to stay because it might be Earth. Maybe. And then, of course, they get caught up and stuff and stuck. So it's actually pretty much a classic Doctor Who plot. But handled, of course, completely different than how you would normally handle it. Because, yeah, the second Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I guess, will bring me to my own dislike in the fact that the handling, the way the second Doctor handles it is really kind of
Daisical. So many hiccups.
telesnaps too.
Okay.
You all right, Matt?
Just had another hiccup.
Is that like internet failure or?
I assume so because the big one that hit also sent my my phone into trying to connect for the stream. I closed tabs and everything, so I'm just praying that whatever freaking Spectrum is doing, that they stop it and just let it be.
We have had rolling electrical storms in the area, to let you know. So, I mean, Matt knows this, but to let you guys know, we've been having rolling electrical storms. So that might be futzing with our connection somewhat. I mean, it's just like it sucks for me because I sleep next to the window with a fan in it.
So there is a 73.5-minute now archived video of the Highlanders.
God fucking damn it. Well, now we're just going to release it in 2 parts now.
I guess so, yeah.
Because I can't sit here and edit something that long and have it come out as one video unless I really damper the quality.
Right.
It happens. It's part of a pain in the ass of being on a live stream.
Yep.
Yeah, especially when you have disconnects like this. When you have electrical issues and the internet having electrical issues. But anyway, so I was, as I was saying, the Doctor just seemed to handle things in a really lackadaisical method. And it might just be part of me not seeing what he was up to because of the telesnaps, but sometimes he seemed to be doing more things just to have fun than anything else. And I mean, at one point on the ship, they asked us, it's like, nope, I'm glad we're here now because I'm enjoying myself. And I'm like, really?
I think at this point they're really trying to play up the differences between this new Doctor and the old grumpy guy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he wasn't quite the old grumpy guy anymore, but they still, I think,
that was still the mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It just got on my nerves a little, and I am grasping for something other than telesnaps. That's an issue. Okay, so favorite scenes, and Bill, you're first. Good luck with that.
I tried thinking of this.
God damn it.
The challenges we've already mentioned, but I haven't been able to come up with anything after pass.
All right. Matt?
Actually, I have a favorite scene, and it was a nice little character scene when the girls find that guy again, the lieutenant or lieutenant at the bar or something, and start threatening him for information. That was kind of amusing.
Was that after they robbed him?
Yeah. That was I think the 3rd episode, halfway to the late half of 3rd episode.
All right. All right. So I don't have anything much to say about that because that scene completely went past me.
I find it very amusing, so I know.
Tim, how about you?
The scene I found amusing was when the Doctor deals with Perkins by treating his eyes. I love that. It's like, your headaches. No, it doesn't.
Boom. God, connection today.
No, I want you to lie down on this desk and close your eyes for 1 hour. Like, what was that? That was nothing. He needs to rest too. And the denouement of that whole episode, like, what are you doing? I'm resting my eyes, sir. Well, stop. Patrick Troughton's comic timing in that scene and his performance was really sold it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think I have to go with any scene where Patrick Troughton has that outrageous accent. I think the scene I like the most is where he screams, or he convinces the Scotsman to sing along to the Jacobite, basically the Jacobite rally song, and then proceeds to go, "They're driving me nuts with the song," you know, and convinces them that he knows there's a plot going on because of it. So he's just like he double deals them in a way. I found that amusing.
That's
All
him
right.
secretly playing the chess master, yes.
Yeah. Least favorite scene.
So I kind of referenced this earlier, but I think it's the climax. And this isn't entirely a telesnaps issue, but it definitely kind of destroyed the scene in this format, in which, again, they would just show a picture. The telesnap was of someone's face, and it just sounded like someone playing the spoons and grunting. And there's clearly a choreographed battle going on, but there's no way to see it. And having some sort of video, even if it's crap, would greatly elevate the scene. But in its current form, I'll have to go with that. It's whatever battle scene was in the final episode.
Okay. Matt?
Least favorite scene. This is the scene I really want to love, but I can't because of just how much is missing because of the lack of footage, is the very end when they're bringing Jamie to the TARDIS. It sounds like by the text of it that there's a lot of interesting stuff going on as they're bringing him in for the first time. But again, you can't see any of it and you don't really hear much of anything. It's just blah and gone.
All right. Tim? I didn't really have a least favorite scenes, but I thought that it almost felt like they were pushing it towards Polly going to say, "Oh, I fall in love with Mr. Finch, and I'm going to stay with him and marry him."
And they didn't.
And they didn't.
There's so much of the first Doctor era leads you to expect that, so I can understand that reaction.
It's like they lampshade it because that was like the default ending through the first Doctor era.
Mm-hmm. And they just did it as a joke, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is that was just them going, "Nope, we'll tease at it, but we'll not do it. Not gonna do it."
Nope.
All right. So my least favorite. Action, and that's the scene where the cannonball lands. In the version I watched, you actually see this little black ball drop, and then them shake the telesnap like it's a freaking Warner Brothers cartoon.
And I've gotten disconnected again. Come on.
No, thank you. So yeah, I absolutely hated that. Okay. So we are up to our final thoughts.
Well, the thing stayed connected long enough for final thoughts. It's already disconnected again, didn't it?
Kind of portrayed as the bad guys here, and it's a BBC production, and that they generally didn't do that to my understanding, especially in the 60s. That's my understanding, at least. So, I mean, they didn't they didn't portray Britain as being like Hitler or anything, but even still, it was, a little more than I would have expected. This seems to be a good story, and I can say, even if the video is bad, getting some video format would greatly improve this story. Again, there's a lot of action, and it's just still images do it no justice. Hopefully the video is very good, but even if the video is bad, it
Come on. You can recover now. Come on.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Matt.
Hello. Wow,
Eh.
that was another long one, but I didn't see it load on the stream yet. So yeah, very quick before anything else happens. My final thoughts. This seems like a really good story, but there's a lot missing when it's such an action and/or visual-oriented episode, which this obviously very much is, and it's going to bring it down a huge grade. That's about it. Just trying to make this quick so I don't get cut off again.
All right, Tim.
This really showcased Patrick Troughton's ability to play different characters and personas. This was the first Telesnap episode I saw where the Telesnap really took away from the experience. But still, it was a fascinating introduction to a little-known piece of history that I wouldn't have otherwise been aware of.
All right, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. So, I hate telesnaps, and this pretty much showcases why I hate telesnaps. It is absolutely, it was pretty much incomprehensible to me as to what was going on. There was a lot of just text scrolling across the screen that was blink if you miss it, and they're trying to narrate dialogue that does not show on the screen. Just a lot of people's faces. It just absolutely did not carry the show. And this one is one that definitely suffers. Unlike last week's, which was tolerable, this one is absolutely atrocious in telesnaps, and I will not be able to rate it well until it is complete in some other version. Thus said, let's go to the scores. Bill.
Reasons we've amply described. I'm going to go with 3.5 because I can't rate it higher, but with the acting and
Okay, for everyone else.
Yeah, he's robotizing for me
Oh,
too.
sorry. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
For the moment, go.
So if you didn't hear, I said 3.5.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay.
Which is high for me. Matt.
I'm really trying to dig in my heels and saying that this could become an easy 4 with even a slapdash video, but I can't give it that high, so I have to give it a 3.
All right. Tim.
Yeah, I can't give this a 1 high because of just the technical problems and just the storyline was hard to follow, so 3.
3. For me, actually, let me X out Erin because she will review this next week. For me, any Telesnap episode is automatically reduced to a 3. And then if it somehow manages to absolutely become beautiful, I can give it higher, but I don't think I've ever given a Telesnap higher than a 3. And this one is probably, I'm actually going to have to give this one a 2.5 because it was a horrible, horrible Telesnap.
Just purged everything of the personality that might have been in this episode.
So I'll give this a 2.5. That will average this out to a 3.0, which, make sure that's going through. Yes. In our rankings, 3.0, we'll put it at not that high. 3.0 will put the Highlanders at number 204 out of 245 things reviewed. It is on par with The Wheel in Space, The End of Time, The Beast Below, Deep Breath, The Ultimate Foe, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, Revelation of the Daleks. It is better than Aliens of London, World War III, and Time of the Doctor, and is worse than The Sea Devils, Planet of Fire, Survival, Asylum of the Daleks, The Mysterious Planet, The Coach with the Dragon Tattoo, The Massacre, Cold War, Rings of a Cotton, and Earthshock. So 3.0, number 204 out of 245. That's all we have to say about the Highlanders. Thus said, there is something I want to point out as a side note, that this is the 245th thing we've reviewed. As present, there are 206. It's also our 256th episode. At present, there are 268 stories for Doctor Who on the official line. If we had reviewed one for every episode we did, and we had only stuck to Doctor Who, we'd be almost done by now. Just as an interesting little side note there.
FYI.
Yep. So that's it for the Highlanders. Disappointing, but only because it's not complete. Bill?
Okay. If you enjoy listening to us, don't forget to follow us at twitch.tv/Unearthly Podcast and at Unearthly Podcast on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And if you want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/Unearthly Podcast.
All right. Next week, with Jamie aboard, it's time to say goodbye to Ben and Polly. So we step forward a few episodes to their departure in The Faceless Ones. Written by David Ellis and Malcolm Hulk, and starring Patrick Troughton as the Doctor, and Aniki Wills as Polly, Michael Crace as Ben Jackson, and Fraser Hines as Jamie McCrimmon. See you next week. More telesnaps.
Oh boy, here we go. One more.
Yep.
We're going. We're going.